Shalom, Salama, Siemi, Shalom. Greeting my Israelite brothers and sisters around the world, whether you are of the blood or if you're grafted in. We're both here under the grace and the power of Yeshua HaMashiach, which most of us have known as Jesus Christ. There's still power in the name. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what we like to say is, well, now that we know better, we can do better. And I don't like to use that name because they try to use it as a byword, and they try to use it to demean and divide us. And I would say you're correct. That's for them. You're correct. But here's the thing. You can still come to the mercy seat, whether you're using Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahawashi, Yahawashai, whether you're using Yesiah, whether any variation. But you are petitioning the same man who died on a tree, whether hung or crucified with the nails. He died. He was killed. And then he rose again. And that's the title of the Son, who is the Son of the God of Abraham, the Elohim or Elimho, or however you want to phrase it. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel. Last night, I was thinking about something. I said, a lot of us don't actually understand. When we think about Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, when we truly actually think about Jesus, he's a family member. Does that ever cross anybody's mind? That's a family member. That's a cousin. That's an ancestor. That's somebody that looks like one of us today. In America, in Brazil, in the Caribbeans, in all the other distant areas that Black folks were taken as slaves in captivity to the four corners of this earth. See, I thought about that and I said, Lord, I'm a family member. I'm of that tribe. I'm of that tribe through the bloodline. So naturally, in my carnality, hey, come on, God. We're fam. You're fam over here. You need to take care of me. I'm your fam. Break me off at least 100 million. At least a piece of that. Come on. Maybe 5 million. And then you realize in your spirit, look, God ain't going to give you nothing. Why? Because here's the thing. Why would I had seen something the other day, and it was showing lottery winners that have lost all their fortunes. Because it was easy money, easy come, easy go. And see, I had the pleasure of going to one of the richest countries in the world. And for them, they know that they're rich, but they would rather live intense. They would rather, go and camp and live simple because they know that when you start to introduce a lot of the things that's pleasurable or carnal to the body, do you have more issues, and then you start to realize that it's not the money that makes you happy. Does the money make you secure? Yes, it does, but it shouldn't be your source of happiness. See, I look at it like this. I kind of thank God that I'm in the middle of my situation. I'm not in the greatest situation, but I thank God that I'm in the middle of it. See, because here's the thing, God knows I could be out of a situation like that. He can say, Karis, I got a job for you. Like that. So it's kind of funny because when all the stuff was going down, I had been separated from the military for now, off of active duty now for less than 30 days. And I can't lie, I enjoyed my time in the military, but it was kind of like, man, these stints are getting harder and harder. Because see, when you've been awakened, and I was awakened before I came on my last set of active duty orders. And one of my coworkers, he was a good white guy, and he was straight. He was knowledgeable. He understood. From out of Richmond, Virginia. And I would laugh. I said, "Okay, you're from out of Richmond, Virginia," because one time we had to go up to Suffolk, Virginia. And I had told my dad, I said, "Yeah, I'm going up to Suffolk, Virginia." I said, "And it happened to see on my birth certificate that you're from Suffolk, Virginia." "Oh yeah, yeah. That's where we're at. That's where our family is from." And family from the European side of the house where, we were purchased as slaves and brought on over to work the fields and to obviously make that European side wealthy. But here's a story that you kind of have to delve into because I thank God for my 4 trips. Got a chance to see my family a couple times. That's still there, and got a chance to understand the history and the histrionics. Oh, that's a big word. The histrionics of what has made this country wealthy. See, what we're seeing right now, it's like they've seen the inevitable and it's just a bad movie to them. It's a bad movie. Because usually I'm able to get these black folks to kind of settle down. We throw them a few things here and there, and then guess what? It's business as usual. Here's the problem as black folks, as we have started to wake up and perk up our ears and be hypersensitive to everything in this society, we are now understanding that exposure is out in the open. So in this lesson, I'm not really going to give you a lesson. All right, students, listen up now. No, but in this presentation, I'm not going to give you any scriptures. I'm not going to give you any um, anecdotes or anecdotal graphics or anything else like that. But I just kind of want you to listen and kind of recall the things that I'm saying because we all have an understanding of it. And if you're Gentile and you're listening, listen, understand. There's nothing wrong with listening and understanding because this is for your edification. But what I'm going to explain to you, it's going to be a lot of gristly, meaty information that most black folks, we get it, we understand it. And as we get it and we understand it, now we can start to do what? We can start molding and shaping things with it. So I have this as the cost of racism. And I wanted to make sure that I brought in that graphic. That was a great graphic. You had the liberal shouting, racism is ignorant. And then you have the KKK member in his iron cross, get up. And the funny thing is, I like to show that because here's the problem. They're both one and the same. Oh, hey, that's some controversial stuff. They're trying to fight for our behalf. They're trying to do everything. Look, are you one out there? Are you there on the front lines? Are you there protesting and calling for racial unity? No, I'm not there. I'm not on the front lines. I'm not protesting. I'm not calling for racial unity. Because here's the thing, we have done that for the last 160 years and just about. And see, when we've awoken in this time, you have to wake up to everything. And if you're not quite awake, you've awoken, but you're not quite awake, then you have to start understanding what you have awoken to. So with all this stuff, I always like to say, look, shout out to Lisa Cabrera and her channel. Shout out to We Woke Now. Shout out to Sister E. Shout out to Teo, Brother Robert, to Christian, Brother Christian. He gives me that scriptural foundation. I call him my biblical encyclopedia, better than Zondervan's. And so he publishes some information on covenantawakenings.com. And I would ask that um, you take a look because he's coming on out with revisions, but it's a living, breathing testament, encyclopedia that honestly we haven't had before in that type of format. I know that we've had that through BlackHistoryInTheBible.com and with Minister Fortson and things of that nature, but it delves in deep, and he's only been awakened since March. Like, you sure you weren't awake before me? But that just goes to show that the wealth of knowledge that we have and the wealth of understanding that we have is a wealth. It's a cost. It's a consumer item. It's a durable good. For all these folks that have had their business degrees and their multiple business licensures or anything else that just tells you that you are smart enough to do something for an organization that will prolong its life as an organization, as a corporation. See, it's funny that, and I shout this out to Hebrews Fear, all this stuff is now coming on out, and it's being pushed into our minds warp speed. There are so many people that are getting on in there, and they're just pushing out this information. Some of the information is you're gonna have to get that with a grain of salt, but a lot of the information is very good. It's very profound. You've seen the information before, but like a lot of us, we just kind of digest it and we don't really put a footnote to that information. And so I look at it because here's the thing. You can call me on out. Hey, that doesn't make sense. What you said doesn't really work. That's again. I say, look, research it and look at Lisa Cabrera's channels. Look at True World's channel. Look at uh, Torian Rain's channel. We have it. We have it on out there. Look at Africa Insider, Africa Diaspora Network. It's all out there. We've now started to collate our information, and we've started to solidify and codify our information, which is what we've never had done. We never had really a library or an actual repository of data the way that we're starting to bring that now. See, when you have to when you're what your understanding is that repository of data, that is actually a business function. And do you understand the very first ones that had the repository of data? That was us. That was us. In the cotton fields, in the peanut fields, in the tobacco fields, what were we doing? We're telling each other how to work and how to work effectively. We're showing each other how to do business and how to create things. Because guess what? When we were there ensuring that the American economy had its pinnacle of wealth, we were the ones doing it. Think about that. We, I don't think Americans know how much Black people have really contributed to this nation. And the contributions, if you realize this, the contributions always come in disasters. Hey, I need anybody that can help me on out. Wait a second, I thought that you're quote unquote white Americans. I thought that they knew all that there was to know. I thought that they could handle it. Wait a second, they can't pull up their bootstraps and take care of it? No, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like that's the image that was brought to us. See, the image that was brought to us was saying, hey, get out the way so I can fix the problem. Because see, the thing was, we as Black people could never fix the problem. Israelites. I know that may offend, but Black Israelites and Black. I'll keep that in as a synonymous term. So we understand how that's come to be. See, if you actually understood slavery and the business of slavery that we've had in this nation, see, we can easily say, yes, we've had 400 years of captivity. Well, you all weren't slaves for 400 years. Yes, we were. Oh, yeah, prove it. And then you break down the 13th Amendment, and then you explain to them peonage, and then you explain to them the same policing tactics that are used to this day and age. And then our white counterparts, they quickly dismiss those ideas. And they said, no, that's not accurate. You better get your sources straight because you understand they have nothing else to argue. And when that happens, they become mad because, see, the indictment was there that slavery in its form is the same as it was back in 1855. Well, why do you say that? What about the families? Listen, listen. The families are just a little bit more compartmentalized. See, you may have a family for a second, but then as the woes of this society, through the mechanics and the mechanisms of systemic racism, those fundamental pressures start to do what? It will automatically erode that family. See, the success story of America is how long Black people will work for quote unquote free, or the sentencing of that individual. See, you got to understand our criminalization starts before we're even formed in the womb here, because that was the frame them that they are criminals. Because guess what? The 13th Amendment says that what? Slavery is legal, except in the case of a criminal. Well, that solves it. Everybody's a criminal. Every Black person's a criminal. We're all criminals. They're all criminals. What are you doing? I'm standing right here. Because what? I'm waiting for a ride. To where? I don't know. That's a criminal. Do you understand that's the same tactics that we have being used against us? Why? Because guess what? We are guilty until presumed innocent. And even though something's written different in the court of law, the court of public opinion greatly shapes the court of law. And see, that 13th Amendment shaped the public opinion real quick, because you needed to have your quote unquote slaves, quote unquote criminals, to be in effect. To do what? Now we can have slave wages, and we'll just call them criminal. You're paying back your debt to society. Anybody heard of that? What debt? Man, you owe the United States government, because guess what? Your Black behind was allowed to go free because guess what? You had the Gullah Wars, you had all these other issues messing us on up. You had all these things. You were the carpenters, the lawyers, the doctors. You were the skilled folks. You made everything happen. So now what I'm going to do, I know that guess what? You all still have those trades, because you learned a thing or two coming up off the plantation. And see, for those of our family that were able to get to those communities that were either Greenwood or Durham or Peachtree, there's over 200 of them. And what were we doing? We were just keeping the wealth within our communities. Hey, don't you want to trade with the white man? Nah, because I'm gonna trade with this brother. Why are you gonna do that? Because here's the thing. It's sincerity that I'm trading with him. And I know that if I help him, he will help me. So the group economic structure was actually more favorable. And that group economic structure was actually more financially viable. See, that's what I tell you. We had 35% of the GDP at one point in time. But see, you have to understand the land of your captivities, the land of your captors, you ain't going to have that money in your account forever. Oh, no, no, no. You're holding more than us? Most of us? No. Nope. Because we're going to do what? We're going to go back to our nature. We're going to go back to what we were allowed to do, what we were empowered to do in this captivity. And that's what we've seen in our history books. It's funny because just recently, former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, she said that America is not a racist nation. See, for us, we look at that and we kind of say, well, that's an odd statement to make. And in mainstream media, CNN and all these other, news outlets and agencies are saying, well, hey, they're speaking to the base. They're talking to the base. They're trying to convey to the base. Well, here's the thing. The base doesn't care if America is racist or not. Just think about that. Do they really care that America is racist or not? We're talking about the Republican Donald Trump supporter base. No. See, for those that are accepting that message, they don't care. They already know. Well, yeah, Trump has a couple little racial tendencies, but he's a great president. He don't fix COVID, and he's leading us in the right direction. Okay, tell me where that direction's headed. Well, it was bad, but now it's getting better. Okay, explain what better looks like. Qualify that statement. Give me empirical evidence of what the numbers are looking like that would be better, that this economy is performing well. It's performing healthily. Because all I know is a lot of people are going to get very mad because Home Goods and TJ Maxx is about to go out of business. A lot of families are going to be pretty mad that they can't find their lamps, towels, and everything else from designer stores cheaper. Well, why is that? Our economy is so good. You got to understand. See, that was actually it wasn't for us. That was actually for the international community. Because I'm going to break this on down. Back in 2017, Nikki Haley was the former ambassador to the UN. And as the former ambassador to the UN, she had to formally withdraw the US from the Human Rights Council. And see, you have to understand, America has had over a dozen complaints of human rights violations centered towards Black folks, made by Black folks. See, I don't think a lot of people understood. George Floyd's family actually testified to the UN. They did that back in June. They said, Houston, we have a problem. We're out here getting murdered and killed. Y'all seen this. Y'all understood this. So we have to do something. Because if not, we are taking it that you do not care about our suffering. As long as what? As long as the dollar is still working for you. Fast forward today. Is the dollar still working? No, because the dollar is actually getting weaker. And see, a weakening dollar is national security because guess what? Well, you can't really invade a nation just to invade them, but you can definitely invade a nation if you have what? If you have what? Human rights issues. See, it's scary. It is scary for them to actually understand the rest of the world could literally pile up on the US because guess what? The US is killing black folks. It's it's subjugating black folks to harsh environments. See, the world has known this for years. It's just that the world didn't want to say anything because guess what? It was making its money. It was making its money. Now that, all right, I need to get my money back. Because why? Because I can't even audit Fort Knox. Ask the Germans. Ask Angela Merkel. Were they able to ever audit Fort Knox? Where'd my money go? Where'd my gold go? Oh, we're holding it. Where? That don't look too good when you done took a nation's wealth. That don't look too good if you can't produce what that nation's assets are. But that's where we're at. That's what we're seeing. Hey, we're gonna have the greatest humanitarian mission ever. To what? To free Africans slash Israelites, blacks, African Americans from the clutches of their 400-year enslavement. And in this time, we get a chance to take credit. That's Isaiah 60. Oh, let's go ahead. Let's help one out. And then guess what? They're going to break us off a little something, something. Because they got to get all their stuff together. They got to get everything moving. So the point was made by Nikki Haley that racism doesn't exist in America. But see, they never want to talk about the prison industrial complex. See, when I was on active duty, I would actually explain to people, I said, listen, do you understand that because of this prison industrial complex, that accounts for 55% of our manufacturing? Look it on up. The studies are there. Look it up. Look it up with Lisa Cabrera's channel because basically everything that I'm saying, she has made the stories on there. She has done the stories. I'm just giving you a little bit more of an academic analysis on that story. And so that analysis is if you understand that we've had over 400 years to where we are now at our lowest point in the history of this country. So you got to understand the harsher conditions actually were the most favorable for innovation. Let me say this on out there. The harshest conditions for us were the most favorable for innovation. But Kara Sweaty said that makes no sense. Who would even think like that? Because what? Out of what? Necessity is born innovation. See, there are books on out there 20,000 inventions by African Americans. These are real books. And of course, because it's the truth, it will not be publicized at all. Or the the publication, the circulation so low that you may be able to get your hand on one or two copies because it was a quote unquote limited print. But I would always argue, I said, listen, do you understand that America has been in a innovation standstill? An innovation standstill since the 80s. No, Karis. No, 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 no. You're lying. And I would explain to him, I said, listen, think about that. What have we done as a people that we've actually created since then? What have we created? Well, we've had the cell phones, we have this, we have the computer, we've had internet, we've had all this stuff. Here's the thing. Internet was already here since what, 1960? Yes, it was. That same black man that created the technology for the internet, he did it with the government. The same black man, or not, it was a different black man that created the ability for the internet to send or the computers to talk to each other. That was the basis of what the defense used. And of course, they would never credit that to us. But see, back in the late 80s, early 90s, those contracts got commercialized. See, everything from the computer we invented. The light bulb we invented. Sorry, it was not Edison. Edison had 23 black inventors on his staff that he could take the credit for, which means he invented zero. He had even lost some of his patents that we didn't want to give up. See, we invented the refrigerator, the television, even the cell phone. Well, it was a white guy that made the first cell phone call. Go figure. Go figure. There was a black man that actually invented the cell phone. See, Dr. Gladys West, she invented GPS. Thank God for a black woman that we don't have to ever be lost on this planet. GPS. And here's also another great invention, and I spoke to this man personally, Moses West, who invented the air water generation system. AWG has a patent on it and everything. You ain't stealing our inventions. No, we know this thing. We know this thing. No, you ain't stealing our inventions anymore. But you have to understand, that's just one. And when I spoke to him, it's interesting because he knows who we are. He knows who we are. And the funny thing is, when people know who they are, guess what? I'm holding on. I'm holding on to it. Why are you holding on to it? Why aren't you going to contribute that here? In this hour? Because here's the thing: you gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them. You have to understand the timing. See, don't think that you're going to have this ability from the Most High and you not know who you are. Do you hear me? Don't think that. And I know the funny thing is, he was on a couple of interviews within our channels, within our community. Research it. It's on out there. But it shows you that the amount of us, 2/3 of black men, have been incarcerated. Black women serve the highest rates of incarceration. Now, they may not have the most times of being incarcerated. They might not be in as much as black males. But man, when they get on in, they're doing time. They're doing some time. And you got to remember, what they're going for is just petty things. And that's really the same as most black people. Very rarely do we go in for violent crimes. Because if you look at the statistics from the Department of Justice, our violent crimes amount to just 9%. 9%. 91% of our crimes are nonviolent. It's the Department of Justice. Google it, look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. So you see it right now, and you see it every day because you hear the stories of a man going to jail for the rest of his life for stealing a candy bar on his third offense. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad that they say, he's not even worth it. He's telling you that. He's telling you, we have a family member that's not even worth it. Send him to jail for the rest of his life. You say that to a white person, oh man. You know how many white people? All lives matter. White lives matter. They would be there in a heartbeat. You don't treat us like you treat them. Don't even think about it. They would stop that up real quick. And we've seen them stop it up real quick. We've seen them make up new cases for defenses called influenza. Where you kill 3 people and you get away with it? No, that's just called injustice, and that's called wickedness. But see, you have to understand, it's all being seen, it's all being shown. And I could have broken down the numbers of, trillions of dollars have been lost because our innovations have been stymied since the 80s. And that's because of the privatized prison corporations. And that's done with all of the external, existential media propaganda that's been fed on us since the 70s and 80s. And on top of that, that's been coupled with crack cocaine in the communities. And look, we all know the stories. I pray that we are now at this time, we know all the things that have happened to us and we understand what's happened to us. And that's been a cost because here's the thing, they've lost their money. They've lost out in properly utilizing what? Human capital. Oh man, they're getting smarter for their own good. So guess what? I got to put them away. I'll bring in a buffer class. All right, buffer class, let's see what you can do. Man, we don't do anything. Let's see what you can invent. We don't invent anything. Let's see how innovative you are. No. Well, can't you create a process? No, that's not our function. See, we just deal the same thing that you do. We just know how to do it a little bit better. We're a little bit more effective. Why? Because we've learned from you what to do, and we just emulate that and we just make it a little bit better. What's that? Oh, we just copy black people. And then we take their credit. We do one or two things there, but we'll never have an original concept or a design. That's just not how that goes. We're not salt. We're not the flavor. We're not the seasoning. We just kind of see what they've done. Okay, I would have done it like this. I would have done it like that. And in the end, guess what? It's never quite as good as the original. Because when we stamp something and we do something, it usually always seems to last a while. See, the funny thing is, when you've seen a house that has been or that was built on plantations by Israelites here in America, if they've been kept up with just the meagerest, the most meager, cut the grass, do the painting, just do a few patches here and there on the roof. It's a little bit of maintenance. You have homes that have still lasted to this very day. But we already knew how that was going to come about. We already knew it. We already understood it. But we also understood that's Deuteronomy 28. Look, you're going to build homes that you're never going to live in. You're going to plant vineyards that you're never going to eat. But see, as much as they have taken and taken, they actually didn't realize it was only just going to be for a little bit of time. It was only going to be for a little bit. Because the funny thing is that the concept of racism, it's lost the money. See, personally speaking, I'm going through a problem with a certification I'm trying to take care of. And that certification, I studied. I bought all the little tests. I bought all the materials. I've done all the things I needed to do. I completed all the stuff I needed to complete. I had all that stuff together. And then they said, "Oh, well, you failed." I said, "Okay," but there are some issues during the test because I had to take it in home. So they allowed me to retake the test. And I was getting ready to do a cram session to try to get stuff taken care of before I started in on my full time program, postgraduate program. And I said, wait I said, it just doesn't seem right. Because, when the Holy Spirit talks to you in your spirit, man, if something ain't right, it's not right. Something's not smelling right. Something's not feeling right. Right? And so just before I got on here, I was talking to my dad this morning, and it was just funny as I was talking to him, the Holy Spirit just brought that on up. He said, "Lord, you need to do X, Y, and Z." So I did it. Sent the email to the certifying organization, and as I sent that email, they actually responded pretty quickly. No, 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 this. And I said, you know what? Here's the problem. Here's the problem. That used to be a fine answer in a different era. And I told him this. I said, you know what? In this era, I can't have that answer. It's not an acceptable answer. I said, because here's the thing. We know what racial discrimination and systemic racism looks like. And see, here's the thing. We knew what was happening. We would just be too afraid to kind of like, I don't want to deal with it. It's not worth it. And then you realize, no, it is, because guess what? I ain't trying to get shot. We're past this congenial phase of our captivity. No, I'm gonna take this thing head on, and guess what? If you have a problem with me, you can come to where I live, because guess what? That's on the credentialing paperwork. Bring somebody. Showing up. Step to where I live. Oh, I will defend mine. I will defend me and mine. Let my kids be on over. Oh, oh, listen, there's going to be one of us surviving. And I plan on doing the talking. Because guess what? Dead men don't tell no tales. But you have to understand, see, I submitted that to them, and I gave the explanation. I said, "You look, I don't want to retest. I don't want to recertify for that certification." I said, "Until you look at this thing, look at this." And I gave them this explanation. Listen, if certifications and licenses were important, then guess what? The people that would have the certifications and licenses, guess what they'd be able to do right now? They'd be able to have a functioning economy, a robust economy. So, see, your license and certifications, where is that leading us? Because I'm thinking that you really didn't have the people that would be able to innovate and resuscitate things to where it needed to be. See, you got to remember, racism here, it was nice and subtle, and wasn't that profound, but man, that thing got busted wide open. It got busted wide open. So I said, no, I don't feel comfortable retaking that test. If you can't be forthcoming, if you can't be transparent. I said, and on top of that, guess what? I'll use whatever clout that I have, and I'll tell these people about your organization and who you are. Because see, when I spent my 16 years, which on active duty out of my 20 plus year career, see, I've done all the stuff that was done during that time. I've had the awards, the accolades, all these things that validated that what I answered and how I answered it matched up with the book knowledge. Why? Because I've been a great student of academia. Because I understand the concepts and the principles. Show me something and I'll run loops around it. Because guess what? I just come with a different perspective. I'm not trying to say, look, I know everything. I don't. That's what makes me so unique. Look, I tell people, look, I'm dumb. Don't tell me, look, I don't want to be confident. I don't purport to be confident. I just purport to do what? I purport to learn and continue to learn. Because guess what? Does everybody know how this society's going with COVID? Nope. We're always learning. We're always continuing to learn. We're always continuing to adapt. And so I threw it back in their face like, hey, you need to do this and get my confidence. I said, because here's the problem. That this thing, it's not what it used to be. And then it was funny because they actually reported pretty quickly. They came back. They said, well, we can't do this and that. It's the typical hoopla. Secrecy, all this other stuff. I said, that's fine and dandy. I said, but you understand we're in a different day and age. And guess what? Out of the absence of facts, assumptions can be made. So now I'm assuming that this is going to be a racial thing. And now I'm assuming that that systemic racism has bled its way into this certification. And correct me if I'm wrong, but here's the problem. A lot of these organizations are always hiring because guess what? They don't have very capable people. I see the job that I wanted to get. I've seen that. There's so many people hiring for it, but here's the problem. They may have something, a certification that they've gone through, either cheated through or did the little boot camp thing and just did all the stuff that was just on the test, did the little test king and all that other stuff. And then guess what? They don't know anything. They can't do anything. And the sad thing is we've all been there. We've all seen that. We've all witnessed that. Where it's like, wow, you have that? Well, man, you don't know anything. Oh, I do. I know because I got my certification in it. Okay. But that was it. And see, you got to understand that's now being marginalized because guess what? That's not really given the accurate statements anymore. And see, I look at it like this: there's the costs are internal, and the costs are also external. But see, the problem is, I like that statement because racism is ignorance. But here's the thing: why is it ignorance? Where's the ignorance come from? Because it's just you're denying the truth. See, the whole point of racism was to really stop up our knowledge of who we were as a people. That was it. It's not about, oh, it's systemic this or systemic that. No, that's a symptom. But the whole point of racism was to actually try to deter who we have always been and to try to do what? To try to hide who we were. So now, when they're trying to hide who we were, the more they try to hide it, the more they try to fight it, the worse position they're finding themselves in. And it's just dramatically getting worse. See, the cost of racism, it is truly a cost because of the amount of what they're going to have to go through. See, as much as we try to explain these things to them, it never adds up. They can't get through it. And you know, it's sad because you understand and we understand it's just a spiritual problem. It's a spiritual problem. And it's not to say, look, God or the Most High or Yahuwah can never resolve a spiritual problem. It's not to say that at all. But it's to say that once you understand that it's a spiritual problem, then you can start to do what? You can start to understand and frame how to fix that problem. But you have to understand why that problem exists to begin with. So, in conclusion, if you like the content that was provided by Covenant Awakenings, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, visit us at covenantawakenings.com. I have a Patreon and a CashApp that is provided in the description in this video. Again, I would like to say that Hebrewsphere.com. So I know that Ministers Teo Ministries, Dante Fortson. I know that they had teoministries.ning.com, and they've also had blackhistoryinthebible.com. And I believe they have basically streamlined that within Hebrewsphere.com. And so it's a functional social media site. We use that for discussions, collaborations, and just to investigate and kind of look through different doctrines that we've been presented to during our awakening. Because this thing wasn't perfect. This thing was not perfect. But we're just always striving for perfection. Because many will go here and there to increase knowledge. That's all in Daniel. That's Daniel chapter 12 and 4. Because we're in that day and age. But as we're in that day and age, we could start to understand what this thing encompasses. So, thank you all for watching. And I'd like to say, Shalom, Siemi Salama, Shalom, peace and blessings, Israel.